Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Welcome to LDS Unmarried Life, a podcast for single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves single either because they're divorced, widowed, or not yet married. There is no affiliation with the church. You can find this podcast on AnnetteTalks.com, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, and now iHeartRadio. I would encourage you to subscribe to AnnetteTalks.com, subscribe to YouTube, and if you're listening to iTunes, please rate and review the podcast so that other people can find it more easily. And my book is out. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go to AnnetteTalks.com, and under the books tab, you can find a little summary. It's called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide. And Steve Smith and I wrote it, and it's kind of what it sounds like, just a book to help you deal with dating after divorce in the church. All right, anyway, I'm kind of laughing because Pat, my guest, is looking at me and kind of laughing. And so today I'm doing another episode of Meet the Singles, and I realized after the last episode, someone messaged me and said, I don't understand what this is about. So apparently I did not explain it well enough before Emily and I started talking. So I'm going to fix that this time. I periodically do these episodes where I introduce you to one of my podcasters. And I've done one for Jocelyn, and I've done one for Emily. And did I do any other? I think those are the only...
There's only two.
I did one with Steve Solberg, but that was just because he's a comedian. So if you haven't listened to any of those, go back and listen. So Pat has been mostly call-in, although you were in a few...
Yeah, I was in the few, the men's round table.
That's right, yeah.
That's back in October.
But we go back, a little further than that.
We go back a ways.
When did we first meet?
Golly, it's been 96, 97.
Was it like that?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
I can never remember because it was in Arizona. I went to ASU. I graduated in 92. And so I always confuse you with ASU, but we didn't go to school together.
No, we didn't go to school together. Even though you had a crush on me, we didn't go to school together.
Yeah, you didn't know that until I admitted it to you.
Yeah, it took you 20 years to tell me. So just so you guys know, it does take women a long time to tell you what really they feel about you. So.
Well, you know what? Back then, I was a different person.
You were a different person.
And so if it were today, I would tell you.
Oh, yeah. No, today you have no problems telling me anything. So, yeah, that's true.
But I recently let you know how I feel about you, didn't I?
Yeah, you told me you had a crush on me. That's
no,
how you felt.
I mean currently, today.
Oh, yeah, we're buddies.
Yeah.
She don't. It's not really that bad, but when you get friend zoned, sometimes that's okay. But when you get family zoned... Man, that just, I don't know how to take that. So I got told I was her brother. So, yeah.
So he's been family zoned.
I've been family zoned.
But see, I think that's a really good thing. Because to me, friend zone is cool. It's good to have friends. But when you decide you want someone to be your permanent friend, then you can family zone them in one way or another.
That is true. So that means next year on my birthday, I should at least get a bare minimum of a card.
You're right. Hey, I called you this year.
That's true. You did call me.
And then 5-0. Oh, did I let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, I don't care. I turned 50 this year. It's okay, people. When you turn 50, it's just another day. And then, like, 3 days later, you start getting mail from the AARP. You know, life is life.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. You know, actually, I've kind of, like, grown into 5-0. I know. It's like, I've decided it's cool.
Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, you get to tell people you're 50.
Yeah,
so
it still sounds old.
Yeah, I know. It's half of 100.
It is.
Yeah.
But if you look at President Nelson, we're like babies.
Yeah, but he's like running all over the place and stuff. He's a heart surgeon. Yeah, that's a whole different issue there.
He's in better health than I am, probably.
I think he's probably in better health than half of us in the church.
Yeah.
Or out of the church, even, for that matter.
So let's talk a little bit about you. You live in the old stomping grounds. You've returned.
I have returned to Mesa, Arizona. Well, I was living in Mesa, Gilbert, that area. And now I'm in North Mesa. And I am 15 minutes, 20 minutes from my office in Tempe, over by your old stomping grounds of ASU. And then I'm about 20 minutes from my sister's house in Gilbert. So about in the happy medium.
It's a good area to be in.
Yeah, it is. It really is nice. I enjoyed over there a lot. I I moved over from Albuquerque in July of 2018.
So it's just been
A year.
almost a year. Yeah, it'll be
Almost a year. My
Wow.
house closed on July 26th of 2018. So yeah, almost a year.
So if any of you listeners are in Arizona, you need to get a hold of Pat and get him to go out and do stuff, because I want to go out there and make him plug into the social pipeline. If I lived there, I would own that single scene. I can tell you that right now.
I imagine you probably would. Annette wants me to be her ambassador for light and knowledge for the Annette Talks podcast.
I keep trying to get you to start a Come Follow Me group over there.
Yeah, that's true. The Come Follow Me stuff. Okay, so I don't know if everybody's doing it, and if you're not, that's fine. But the best time to start it is now, if you're not. But honestly, Come Follow Me this year has been completely eye-opening to me, because it's helped me understand a bunch of different things about the gospel I've never really thought about. But it's not so much about just doing the reading. It's about answering questions for yourself. And I've already had the opportunity to share like stuff that I've talked with people at work. Okay, I'm be honest with you. Never am I talking to people about, hey, I read this in the Book of Mormon this week. But when you start reading things about the Savior's life in the New Testament, it's so much easier to share.
Oh yeah, it's totally relatable.
Yeah, I've found that a lot of the things that I'm sharing with people is, things I've not really thought about, but I just have questions on. I'll just give you an example. So in one of the readings, I think it was the last couple of weeks, it talked about Judas and the Savior, and how the disciple or the Savior was saying that basically that somebody was going to betray him, and everybody was asking who it was. And then, he talked about that he would, whoever he would sop his bread with or whatever, that was going to be who it was. Right. And he did it with Judas. And Peter's like, well, is it I, Lord? And all this other stuff. But in the commotion of everything, in one of those verses, the Savior looked at Judas and said, I think it was basically, he told him, he said, well, what thou doest, go ahead and do quickly.
Right.
So basically telling Judas, I know it's you, and you need to go do this. And so my question was, did Judas know this was going to happen in the pre-existence? Did he know this was his divine destiny?
That's a good question. One of those chapters, it said that Satan entered Judas.
Right. He does mention that, but think about it this way. Satan entered Eve in the garden, but Eve knew what the plan was. She knew that, and I mean, honestly, be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not the smartest sometimes. And Eve picked up on the fact that Satan had already gone to Adam and needed to answer some questions. So in all reality, women tend to be a little bit smarter at some of that side of stuff that we are sometimes clueless. But
yeah, every time I watch that temple video, I'm like, Eve knew what she was doing.
No, she absolutely did.
She was wise, and she just knew it had to be done. She didn't want to do it, but she knew it had to be done. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, but anyways, getting back to the Come Follow Me stuff, I tell everybody about Come Follow Me. And even my Sunday school class that I teach, I went out and bought them scripture journals and AKA composition notepads from Walmart that were 50 cents on sale.
Right.
Yeah, I bought them all one and said, this is what you guys need to do. Just do something daily. And if you're not doing it as a family, do it on your own.
These are 14-year-olds you're teaching?
Yeah, 14 turning 15. So I'm at that age where it's critical to help them, but it's not critical enough for me to not be sarcastic with them. I made a kid sit on the floor all week last week because he said, well, somebody stole my seat. I said, well, either you can go get a chair or you can sit on the floor. Oh, I'll sit on the floor.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Halfway through the lesson, he wanted to stand or go get a chair. And it was like, nah, you already made your decision. So next time, make a better decision. So
well, this is why I like teaching gospel doctrine. None of my class ever sits on the floor.
Yeah, but you teach the adults.
I know. I love it.
Whatever,
they teach me. It's awesome. You don't like teaching adults?
I don't know. Teaching adults is kind of intimidating sometimes.
Oh.
But every once in a while, it's fun to teach them.
So let's see. What do you do for a living?
I work for an insurance company as a trainer. So for 17 years in Albuquerque, I worked as a fire claim representative. So I handled anything from a simple theft of items to a home that was burned to the ground. So I wrote the estimates. I handled all of the financial issues on that. I did that for 17 years, and then now I'm a trainer. And so for the last 4 years, I've been a trainer, basically training everybody to do what I did before. And I do mainly virtually. So I'm training over the computer through Skype or FaceTime or phone calls or just conference calls, things like that. So I do that.
So you travel a lot for your job.
Last year was a unique year. I had from July of last year until the end of February, I had 8 assignments. So I was out 2 weeks each assignment, and some of those were back to back. So I'd come home on a Friday night, only to leave on Monday morning to go back out. But I had 8 assignments, so that was essentially 4 months of my time.
Wow.
Which kind of killed it when you're buying a new house and having to fix all the problems from the prior owners.
Right.
Yeah.
I think all that travel, though, must make it hard to have relationships, too, doesn't it?
Why? Funny you should say that, Annette. That's why I'm doing the Annette Talks podcast. Gosh, it's not like a 12-step program. No, it does. It does kind of toll on you a little bit, but it's not the lifestyle that I hope to be in.
So that'll change eventually?
Oh, absolutely it will. So since my last travel, I came home from South Carolina in February of this year. I haven't been on a work assignment, and now it will be in July. I will be all the way through the month of July. So August is when I start traveling again, hopefully. But they've had me on some special assignments where I've created some new training, which in a multi-billion-dollar company, you have to have the test of legal. And so our legal department has gone through the training that I've helped put together, and it's passed our first go around. So we were pretty excited about that. But, other little projects like that, plus, just being in Arizona, I just love it.
And you're a handy guy around the house.
I am. I'm actually in the process right now of remodeling the entire house top to bottom. So I replaced all the doors throughout the house. I still have the front doors to put up, but I finally had to decide on the paint color for the exterior.
And you went with pink?
Yeah. Pink was in the top of the bottom choices for the color. No, I actually went with sort of a brown gray to match the roof, and then eventually I've got the colors for the trim and the main color for the body of the house pinked out now. And to know if I'm right or not, I have to ask my sister and my good friends that I consider family over in Albuquerque if I did the right thing. And then once I have their blessing, I can know that I did the right thing. Doing that, actually I remodeled, I had to reframe in some walls and do drywall and texture and all that stuff so I could get the master closet finished. And now I have a full closet package in there.
Awesome.
Which I'm confused with all the shelves and drawers and everything in a closet and what to put in there.
Yeah, didn't we talk about shoes?
Yeah, you told me you would
I
have
could make use of those.
Yeah, you mentioned that you would have plenty of space to put your shoes in that closet.
That's important to women.
Yeah.
A lot of women have a lot of shoes.
Apparently.
So, ladies, he's got a lot of shoe room, and he's got his own house. Nobody else is living there now, right?
That is true. No one else is living there. I went from 1,300 square feet in Arizona or in New Mexico to 2,600.
Wow.
With 2 stories, which is still kind of interesting. Yeah, but
So, ladies, he's single. He lives in Arizona. He's got a good job and his own house, and he's handy, and he's got shoe room. These are all good things to know. and I could tell you he's a gentleman. He's always opening doors. He wouldn't have made me bring the suitcase down the stairs like Steve and Todd did yesterday when we're in Utah at a singles conference. And usually Steve's like the consummate, let me open the door for you thing. But we were at their Airbnb, and I took my suitcase up so I could change before we went. And I remember coming out, and I'm like, okay, I have this ginormous suitcase, and I've got to get down these stairs. And the guys just plow ahead and walk out the door. I'm like, dude, what is going on here? Pat would never do that. That would be Johnny on the spot and grab that suitcase and take it down.
No, it's about being kind.
And I can attest that you're a good a member of the church. And actually, Pat just gave me a blessing this morning, and it was very tender. And then we had a nice long discussion. So we're both a little verklempt.
Yeah, and my voice is not. This is like almost an episode of Annette Talks After Dark because my voice is shot from last night. I'm just saying, it was a good dance last night.
It was.
Um,
Yeah, he's got the moves, ladies.
oh my. Yeah. Okay, I'll be nice to you. But all I'm gonna say is that there were a lot of older folks at the dance last night. It was definitely a sight for sore eyes, and yeah,
it was an interesting, but as long as you stayed out on the dance floor and you found...
as long as you stayed out on the dance floor, it was fine. If you were in the outskirts, there was a whole different issue there.
Yeah, I didn't make a lot of eye contact.
No.
I spotted a few people that I wanted to dance with, like friends that I met. That I made some. I saw some Facebook friends in real life, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so I danced with them. And then I saw this one guy that looked, around our age, and he was dancing. And he asked me to dance a few times, so I danced with him. And other than that, it was like, okay, keep the eyes averted and just focus in on finding your friends. But the music was good, and as long as you have people to dance with and the music's good, it was
the
good.
music was good once it got going, but when you walk in and they're playing the Bee Gees, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Hey, I like the Bee Gees.
And I will say that there was actually a line dance for almost every song, according to some girls that were there.
I don't know what was up with that. It was like 8 women that would make
but
a line
I'm going to
dance.
tell you that every version of a line dance they did was some version of the Boot Scoot Boogie.
Oh, it was all... Maybe they're just practicing the Boot Scoot Boogie to see if they could do it to different
when
music.
they finally played it, I don't know. I think everybody knew how to do it at that point.
Yeah, because they'd practiced like 10 times.
Yes. No.
Songs.
But no, I actually enjoyed the service project is from Stitching Hearts or something.
Oh, right.
That's
making those blanket thingies.
Yeah, making the blankets. And so I was actually, when you guys showed up yesterday, that's what I was helping them do, was to get the quilting thing going.
Well, that's good.
So
those were for Syrian refugees, I think.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
I think it was for Syrian refugees.
There were so many different facets of what they were talking about yesterday. I was hard for me to figure out. I just figured, okay, I know how to set up the quilting stand. I'll go do that.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Huh.
I quilt.
You're a quilter.
I am a quilter. Oh,
that's right. I forgot about that. You're a quilter.
I am a quilter and have been for several years now. Since 2006, actually.
Wow. What got you into quilting?
I decided I wanted to make my mom a quilt for Christmas.
Oh.
So, what?
I thought you were going to say there was some lady that was into quilting.
No, I am not like that. I decided I wanted to make my mom a quilt for Christmas, so I went into a quilt store and I told them what I wanted to do, and I asked Julie, I said...
After they stopped laughing,
No, they actually were kind of surprised at first.
Bet.
But what was actually funny was when I walked into a quilt store and I told them I said I'm looking for a particular fabric, and the lady looked at me and she goes, "So what fabric did your wife send you in for?" And a coworker of hers goes, "Actually, he's not married and he knows more about quilting than you do."
Oh.
So he came in on his own. And so I asked her, told her specifically and all that.
That's awesome.
But no, going back to the original part of that. So Julie, the quilt store owner, I told her specifically what I was looking. I didn't know what I wanted, but I just wanted to make one. And so she told me, "Here's this fabric, follow the directions. When you get it all sewed together, this is how you sew it. This is how you iron it. Do all this, and then bring it back to me, and then we'll go to the next step."
And you still wanted to do it, huh?
Yeah, so...
I've never quilted from start to finish. I've sat in on quilting bees and done, little stitching, but I couldn't tell you.
No, I actually went back 2 weeks later. She told me how to sew it all together and follow the pattern, so I did that. I went back, showed her the quilt. She measured it all out and said it was the most square quilt, because you want to make sure you're square on your quilt, so when you do everything, it looks right. And so when we talked about it, she told me exactly how to do it, and yeah, I did it the way she told me, and came back, showed it to her, told me how to do a border on it, so I did a border on it, and then they sent it to the quilters, and she showed me how to do binding.
Wow.
So that was.
Do you have a picture of that you can send me?
Yeah, I can. I actually still have on my phone.
I will include it in the show notes.
Yeah. No, actually, after my mom passed, that was because that was a quilt I gave her, but I got that quilt back, and then after that, I was out that quilting store for, I think I like single-handedly funded their 401k.
So how many quilts have you done over the years then?
About 20-ish,
Wow.
and then
So if I get married, are you going to make me a marriage quilt?
no, because then it's creepy.
No, I only say that because...
Here's her new husband. Here's a quilt we have on our bed from a guy that
I guess I can see that'd be a little weird.
Yeah.
But if you're friends ahead of time... Did you know Sarah Nichols and all those people? Anyway, these were my friends from back in the day. Maybe this was before or after. I cannot even remember all the years that I was single. I was single till I was almost 38. So there's a lot of single years.
That's funny because I've been single since now.
Anyway, a friend of mine gave me a quilt, and it was supposed to be an engagement quilt. Like, I wasn't engaged, but it was like supposed to get me engaged or something. I don't know. Obviously, it did not work because this was like when I was in my 20s. But
maybe that's like a time release type thing.
Well, I eventually did get married.
They say some quilts are timeless.
Where'd that quilt go? I don't know. Anyway, all right, so you don't have to give me a marriage quilt. But I want a quilt. If you're making quilts, you know.
I make quilts. I made one for all of my brother-in-laws.
Can you make one that says Annette Talks in big pink letters?
Okay, pink is not usually my go-to fabric.
But as a special favor?
Special like the police at the mall or the Olympics?
Oh, a special.
Okay.
My sister Annette wants a...
I will see what I can do.
Oh my gosh, awesome. That's rad.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're killing me.
So you were saying you've made quilts for
I made quilts. I've also made, for one of my friends, for her daughter, I made bibs.
Oh.
That are, I'll send you the picture of the bibs.
Wow.
I still have the picture of the bibs. They're kind of cool.
I could have used that back in the day when my girls were small.
But there's certain things like that. Like I've been to, one of the quilts I made from one of the classes at that store, actually after I finished making it and it went to the quilters, they asked it if they could put it up for the sample for the class.
Wow.
And I gave that to my mom as well. So I ended up getting that back after she passed. And then, so just stuff like that. I made them for all my sisters. I started making them for all the nephews and nieces, but
wow.
Yeah, that became a bigger project than most because I want a full or queen size quilt. Something bigger than a twin size is what people really want for a quilt.
Yes.
And then
I'd like a queen size.
Thank you. My best friends in Albuquerque, the Lindberghs, Lori bought a quilting machine, and so I am one of the few people that have access to that when I need it.
Wow. And ladies, are you listening to this? This man can make you a quilt. And bibs, if you have babies.
Yeah, or, just leave it at that.
I guess
Random.
Future.
Yeah, future, sure.
If you have babies all right.
Yeah, but no, there's an importance factor there. I mean, there's some time when I made quilts, a lot of times, like back in 2017 when I did 5 quilts that year.
Wow.
And
was that when you were sick?
Yeah, that was when I was sick.
That explains it. That's time consuming.
Part of it getting better was making those quilts. As a matter of fact, my quilt I did for my nephew Hunter, he that quilt alone, that was back, I was in the middle of me really being sick, but I was trying to do something to keep my mind off of being sick and everything. And Lori, I started quilting it and I got through the first row before I could turn the quilt, and I ended up I couldn't stand anymore. I had to lay down for like the next 3 hours, and Lori finished the quilt for me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Have you ever read any of those quilting books? I mean, there's a novel. This lady, Jennifer, I think you pronounce her last name Chiavarelli, something like that. Okay. She writes these books about quilters, but like one of them is set in Maui, which is why I decided to go to Maui.
Oh.
The books are awesome. She takes historical time periods and current, but it's set around these quilters. And the quilting just happens to be part of the story. And so, like, I've never been into quilting, but I really like the story. I like the idea of quilting because there just seems to be something very...
So trying to finish what you're talking about, because that actually made me think of something. So quilting is not so much about the end product. It's about a little bit about the journey, but also about the creativity.
That's what I got from these books.
Yeah, you can be creative as you want to be, and you can go from a raw bolt of fabric and make something. You could cut it apart, put it back together in a different way, and make it completely look different. So everything can bring a story. So when you're making something for an individual, for me, it's about finding what that person's about. So when my friend Ben, when his baby was born, I made them a quilt. And so I have a simple pattern to do for baby quilts, because it's the same size and it takes me it takes me 20 to 30 minutes to cut it all, and I'm done with the quilt top in about 2 hours.
Wow.
So it's a very quick quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made that one, on the back of it, it's like motorcycles. And on the front of it, it has dinosaurs and flames.
That's awesome.
So it's a great quilt. And so the best part about that quilt was when I gave it to Ben and his wife, she goes, well, my mom just gave me a quilt. It also has dinosaurs on it. And I saw the quilt and I was like, oh, that's actually really nice. Because everybody has a different thing.
Right.
Ben looks at the mom's quilt and looks at his wife, and Kelly goes, okay, yeah, Pat, your quilt is so much better than my mom's quilt.
Well, we won't tell anybody.
No,
outside
yeah,
of
I don't think
audience
I
that you
think
said
her mom is married, so she wouldn't be listening to your single podcast.
Probably not.
So no, probably.
But that's
not.
pretty cool, because that kind of reminds me of how my web designer, she designed my website after going through my Facebook page and trying to figure out who I was.
Right.
And then she came up with this website that I think is awesome. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, that website's cooler than I am. You know, like it makes me look cooler than I am. And so I think the quilt might be kind of the same. You kind of get to know who the person is, and then you design it around who you think they are.
Yeah, and like my brother-in-law, one of the quilts I did for him, or the quilt I did for him, because he graduated from BYU and had a master's at ASU, those are the colors I went with, the school colors.
Oh, that's cool.
My brother-in-law in Alabama, I made him a quilt, similar pattern, but what I used, because he's a huge Alabama fan, I did the different colors of all the schools in the SEC conference. And then Alabama was the back, was the whole back, and then I had applique over top of the front, a giant Alabama A.
Oh, wow.
And had that, and that was a part of the theme. And so every quilt I've done for whoever, I've always done a particular flair. My nephew that was living with me in Arizona for a little bit last year and the beginning of this year, I made him a quilt, and I had this one pattern, it's called a turning 20, and it all had fruits and vegetables on the fabric. And so I made his quilt out of that, and that was all a fabric quilt, or a quilt for fruits and vegetables, because he's always eating healthy and exercising and everything.
That's cool.
And it worked out. I mean, it worked out nice. So every quilt has a different meaning for me and why I made it. And so there's a lot of yourself poured into that. And when I
didn't realize you're that creative.
I didn't realize it was that either. It was just something that I picked up, and I enjoy it. I mean, I started with a $150 machine from Walmart, and I gave that to my sister, and then ended up with quite a bit more than $150 machine in my house, and have done a lot of it on my own. But then when Lori got the quilting machine, that's a long arm quilter that I'm like, okay, now I have access. So if I want to go to Albuquerque, or if I want to send something to her to make for me, you know, or to quilt for me, she will. But then she's using her creative side to show me how to do a better job at quilting on my own. And so I've gotten better at doing that on my own as well, and coming up with the patterns, because a lot of stuff it's not like everything's written out for you.
Right.
Because there's so many different versions of fabrics and all that stuff. There's so many, I mean, it goes back to, there's so many different things that mirror life in general, because everybody's different, and you put together your own pattern for life and all of that stuff. And for me, that's what a lot of these quilts have helped me do, is understand that with other people.
So quilting is kind of a microcosm in a way of life. You're taking different pieces and putting them together and seeing what the finished product is going to look like.
But one of the books I recently read was on, it had to do with being creative on your creative side and using that to help you, because Heavenly Father sent us here to be creative.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that I focused in on, is being creative. But a lot of creativity doesn't have to be, quilting or knowing how to do things. It's what can you do now to make yourself better?
Yeah.
And that's
There's a
where
lot of different ways to be creative. I think I had a very narrow view of creativity until I started exploring my own.
Right.
And it's huge. It's a huge part of me that I did not realize. That's just been sitting there, not tapped.
And that's the one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that being creative doesn't have to be about creating something new. It's about exploring who you are and being better at who you are, and then sharing that with other people.
Yes. That's awesome. That is an awesome statement to wrap up our interview on. That's great. Well, it's funny because, I love these interviews because I never know where they're going to go. And I never knew we were going to talk about Pat Steele Quilter. So, no, it's awesome. It's totally cool. The fact that you kind of lit up when you talked about it tells me that that's something that means a lot to you. So I'm glad we talked about it. So for the women out there that wanted to maybe contact you or get to know you, what's a good way to do that?
You can, as in always, if you would like to, contact AnnetteTalks.com.
So you can email me at Annette@AnnetteTalks.com.
Right. Or you can look me up if you want to Facebook stalk me. I am a friend on Annette's Facebook site, so that's more than mine. If you want to or send me a message through that, you're more than welcome to. I'm not like Steve Smith and giving out my phone number.
You're not going to give out a number?
I'm not going to give you out my phone number, but if you IM me and you want to talk, I will definitely respond to you through that. And yes, that is more than okay.
All right, great. Well, thank you for chatting with me today. And again, you can find this podcast at AnnetteTalks.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, iHeartRadio.
Spotify.
Yeah, I think it's everywhere. But go to AnnetteTalks.com. Let us know what you think about this podcast, other podcasts, if you have any ideas for things you want to talk about, anything at all. So thank you for listening to LDS Unmarried Talk and LDS Unmarried Life. I don't even know my own podcast. LDS Unmarried Life, where LDS singles gather.
I'm gonna bloom where I'm planted. I won't take things for granted. Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.